Hey there. Just before I start with this video, I'd like to say that I've received each and every one of your YouTube messages and comments, as well as all of the tweets and direct messages that you've been sending to me on Twitter. Just because I haven't replied to you right away, or put it into video the next week, doesn't mean that I don't intend to. If you pose a question to me, I will put it into a video at some point. This is a matter of when and not if. So let's start off with this video. Quite a common question that I've been receiving from mainly women is that they're saying that guys only take an interest in them if they look thin. And, from a guy's perspective, this isn't true. And in an attempt to answer this question a bit more wholly, I got into a group with a few of my friends, and we came to a similar conclusion. In an attempt to answer this question a bit better, we thought that the best course of action to obtain a sort of common ground was to make a list of all of the celebrities that we thought were good looking. And by the end of it, we looked at it and realised that not a single one on this list was thin. Every single one of them had curves. And this list included women such as Holly Willoughby, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, Scarlett Johansson. The list goes on, but not a single one of them on this list are thin. The same is true for boys. When I was anorexic, I thought that in order for girls to take an interest in me, I should get thin. Little did I know that as I was becoming thinner and thinner, I was becoming more and more unattractive. And looking back on old photos taken back then, I only realised how horrific it got. So, before you get onto a slippery slope that can develop into an eating disorder, you have to realise that getting thin isn't the way for people to take an interest in you. The next question that I've been receiving from a few people is they're asking me whether I planned my meals when I was anorexic and what did I do to try and stop it. The answer is yes, I definitely plan my meals. A minute didn't go by without me thinking about what I'd be eating at the next sitting. And looking back on it, doing this pedantic meal planning wasn't very helpful for me. Whenever I planned a very eloquent meal plan, I realised that I only ate under 10% of what I intended to. The best thing that I ever did to try and stop it was I told my therapist about it. And they said to me, probably one of the best bits of advice that I've ever been given. They said to me, okay, you have these obsessive thoughts about food. Let's try and direct these thoughts to things that are more constructive about your life and your treatment. And this list included things like getting a hobby. And, this included playing the guitar, which I'm doing now. Model making, which I forgot how much I enjoyed. When you're anorexic, you forget how things in your life are quite meaningful aside from food. And if you just take a moment to do things that you used to enjoy doing or things that you might enjoy doing, you will begin to realise that food takes a back seat in your life. It's just a matter of you taking that first step. The next topic I'd like to discuss is one that has been posed to me by quite a few people, and it's one that I've seen posted around different forums, and it's the topic of suicide. It's a very touchy subject, I know, but I'd like to feel as though I tried to give an answer to it. When I was anorexic, I only ever thought about committing suicide once. I never actually tried to go through with it, and it's because I realised that it was the coward's way out. Yes, I had been afflicted with a mental disorder, but it doesn't mean that I myself am intrinsically weak. It just means that I'd been exposed to the necessary risk factors that enabled me to develop the eating disorder in the first place. And the true test of character, the true test of strength, bravery, is to say, okay, I accept I have this eating disorder. Now, rather than giving up, let's try and do something about it. Let's try and get better. You have to keep fighting. Also, when I had these thoughts going through my mind, I told my therapist about it. And as I said before in previous videos, a very good suggestion was to think about what you have in your life, because, to get to this point, you have to sort of realise that everything is hopeless. But if you take a moment to think about what you actually have, I realised that I had a family who loved me. I have friends who really cared for me, and I realised how much of the future I would miss if I'd committed suicide. So yeah, it's not the answer. And if you're beginning to feel these thoughts, I definitely advise you to go and talk to a therapist about it because, this is life or death that we're talking about here. The last topic is a two-parter that I'd like to talk to you about. And it's from people saying, you know, what are the sort of physical straits that you were under when you were anorexic? And some people asking me what are the things that they should be looking out for if they realise that people in their life are becoming anorexic. To answer the first part, there are a lot of physical straits that I was under. And, this included going up the stairs and becoming breathless. My heart would be pounding away. It would miss beats. And, this was very, very frightening for me. I'd also, just black out for no reason whatsoever. And all of these sort of things that were going on, it really kicked me into trying to get better. And looking on the internet, I realised that if I carried on not eating, these changes might become permanent. And this is because, these changes are happening because your body is beginning to digest itself to get the necessary nutrients it needs to tick over. The second part that I'd like to talk to you about is, people realizing that people in their life are becoming anorexic. And yes, there are definitely lots of things that you need to be looking out for. Anorexics are very, very clever at hiding their disease. One of the things that I used to do to try and hide how thin I was getting was I used to wear very, very baggy clothing. This included hoodies, it included tracksuit bottoms. If you realize that, people in your life are beginning to change what they wear, it might be an indicator that they're developing an eating disorder. As well as this, I urge you to get a photo of the person you think is developing an eating disorder from maybe a year ago, 6 months ago. And if you look at it, you might realize that there's a dramatic shift in their appearance that wouldn't have been apparent to you from a day-to-day basis because you don't realize these gradual changes happening. If you do realize that things are starting to go downhill, I advise you to try and talk to them about it because by this point they may have a very warped body image, as I discussed in previous videos, and they might think things are very normal, as I thought. But you cannot be confrontational about it. People who develop eating disorders can become very, very defensive about it. So you have to be very sort of tiptoe about it and let them know that you're there for them, but you're not going to force them into doing things that they may not want to do. As well as this, if this person is still in school, you should go and tell the teacher or school nurse about it because they can do a lot of stuff. As well as this, talk to the parents of the person you think might be developing an eating disorder and discuss what you think is the best course of action. And this may include going to the doctors about it. As a parent of a child with an eating disorder, you have final say in any treatment matter. And you have to sort of take an interest in not what the child wants to be done, because that would be to starve, but what you think is the best course of action for their health. And distinguishing between these two different interests is critical because you may save that child's life. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon.